Okay. So we are going to do a very basic understanding of NgRx. What is NgRx? Where we are going to, what are the scenarios where we have to use NgRx? Again, what means, if we focused on the interview, what basic things you should be aware whenever someone will ask you NgRx? Have you implemented any state management or something? Every interviewer will ask you if your experience is more than 2 years, let's say 3 year, 4 year, or even 10 years. Everyone is going to ask you NgRx. Even though their project doesn't have a state management, they are not using NgRx or anything. Project might be very simple, but still they will ask the NgRx question just to filter out the good candidate, right? So again, it's not mandatory that everyone should have a very deep understanding of NgRx, because NgRx need a proper project, right? If a project is like that where data processing is so much in every component, you are going to handle so much of data. In every component, you are going to need repeated kind of same data. So in that kind of a project only, you need NgRx. Not every standard application need NgRx. So that's why, let's say 70% project in Angular, whatever normal mid-scale project we start, they don't require NgRx. Okay. But for the interview point of view, we need to know the basic of NgRx, like what is NgRx, what things we need to do, what is action, what is reducer, what is store, basic things. If you understand those also, now you will be confident while interview. Because in interview, we have so many questions to ask. They cannot just focus on the NgRx. They will try to see, like, are you aware about the basic things? That's it. They will move ahead. So even if you, whatever we are going to say today, if you understand that also now, and with confidence, just try to implement this 1 or 2 times, then you will have that confidence. You can, while answering, you will be confident, saying like you have properly implemented that. That's why you are saying. So you will get that confidence. Okay. So again, very basic example we are going to try, that is a counter. First, I will explain that counter by using, let's say, subject or behavior subject means by using RxJS. Like whatever we can do with NgRx, same thing we can do with RxJS also. Okay. But again, for handling that kind of thing, we have dedicated thing, that is NgRx. So whatever we can do it in NgRx, same thing we can do it in RxJS also. Okay. But as we have that library, everyone is so aware about that, everyone wants it. So let's see that now. Let's say we have this component. By default, we have this. This is just an empty project. One more thing. I have created a project with standalone false. So this is my 19 project with standalone false. We got app module, because in newer I am yet to try, like in app config I was facing issue. Once I rectify that, again I will, means I didn't try the normal. I tried with the API. So in effect, I was facing some dependency injection. So I thought of, let's go with the basic first. So I'm going with the older folder structure. Okay. Just remaining code will be same. So whatever we do in app module, that we have to do in app config. Just that change will be different. Apart from that, action, reducer, everything will be same. Okay. Now, so first, this is very basic project I have created. First thing, what I will do, I will create extra component. Let's say pages. First, we are going to maintain a counter in a shared state by using RxJS operator. Okay. Let's create a component. Ng generate component. Let's say admin component I'm creating. Then user component I'm creating. So I have created two components. Now this both the component I will be rendering in my app component. So this is the basic code we get in app component. Let's get rid of this. Here I will say, hello, this is from app component. After that, I will create a table, tr, td. In first td, I will render my admin component. Okay. Then in second td, I will render app user. Fine. Now, what we are going to say is like, I need to maintain a common state. Okay. Let's say counter. We need to store something in a global space where that count variable I should be accessible in app component also, admin also, and user also. So for that, I will be creating a service. Again, this like whatever we are going to see, you need a basic understanding of Angular. Then only you will be able to understand RxJS also, and after that NgRx also. Okay. So I will be creating a service folder. Let's create a common service over here. Ng generate service master. So we created a service master. Now inside this master service, I will create a subject. Okay. So let's say counter dollar. Whenever we create subject, we add dollar over there. Data type will be subject. What type of data I'm going to store? So number type. It's a counter. So obviously data type will be number. New subject. Fine. We created a subject. Now, let's say in app component, we have that buttons like increment and decrement button. So let's create two button. Here I will say in decrement. If you understand this, then only you will understand that NgRx. Okay, so that's why I'm instead of going directly with the NgRx, I'm simply going with this. Okay, now in app component, I will have a variable counter data type number. By default, I'm initializing with 0. Now this counter variable I will showcase over here in the interpolation. Now on click of decrement, click on decrement function. Let's create it. This dot counter minus minus. Okay. Just like the same, we need one more function. Increment plus plus. Okay. And this function I will call on the second button. Let's save it. Service we are not using till now, just the basic. See, we are able to increment and decrement. Now, what I need to do, whatever the count variable I have, that I need to pass to the admin work also. The basic now, currently what we have in, oh my God. It, so we did the counter example with by using RxJS operator subject, right? So we were able to maintain common state across over all the application. Now that same thing, what we do it counter example with the RxJS, instead of doing it with RxJS, now we are going to use the NgRx store. So first we need to install the NgRx store. So this is the command NgRx store, ng add @NgRx -store. So this is the package name. Let's open a new terminal. Enter. So it will find like what is the new package we have. So you can see it is saying like 19.1.0 is the new package. It is asking us a permission. So we can say yes. Now it will install. Once like this install, it will add entry in the package JSON also. Let it wait. So now you can see it has added that. Now, apart from that, what it has done, it has added an entry in app.module.json also. So if you see app.module.json, it has added our shared module for root method. Fine. So now what are the store variable we are going to create that we can pass it over here like this? Means our store name and the reducer store name, we reducer like that. Fine. So basic is done. So we have installed the NgRx store. Now whenever we again I said like we are just going to see very basic thing in NgRx. We are not going to deep dive in like what else things we have. Just a basic store we are going to implement. So consider like if you are having 0 to 2 years or even 3 years also, whatever we are going to see, that is very enough or sufficient, you can say, just for the interview preference. But make sure you, whatever we are going to see, you implement it at least 1 or 2 times. Then only you will have that confidence to inform properly, like what is NgRx, what is action, what is reducer. Then only you will be able to explain it properly. Fine. Now, in our app folder, I will create a folder. Let's say store. First file, we have to create the action. Now, actions are something in store, you are going to store multiple data. With that data, what operation you are going to perform? Currently, we are going to take an example of counter. So what we can do with the counter? Either we can increment it and decrement it. So that is nothing but our action. What operation you are going to perform with your state. Fine. So now over here, I will create first file, that is counter.action.ts. Now here, first we need to import it. So what we will import? Our action. So create action from NgRx Store. Fine. Then here we have to create the actions. So export const, we will say increment is equal to what we are going to store? Action. So create action. Now here we have to specify some name. So square bracket counter increment. Just same name we are passing it over here. Why it is expect? We need export over here. Just like that, one more action we are going to create, that will be increment. Sorry, decrement. Const decrement is equal to again create action, round bracket, value we will pass decrement, square bracket, fine. So we created two action, create increment and the decrement. Fine. So as I said, whatever the operation you are going to perform with your state, that you define it over here. We in action, we don't have any logic. Just we describe what things we are going to do, what things are going to happen with our state. Once you create the action, next thing will be you have to create the reducer. So again, we will create one more file, counter dot reducer dot ts. Now here we are going to create our reducer. So reducer is a place where we actually write the logic to that we are going to do with the state. Actual whatever like modify in our example, we are going to increment and decrement. Actual logic will be in your reducer. Fine. So let's import it first. Import, create reducer. Okay. After that, we are going to need action, but we will do that. First, we need to create a initial state. Like as example, we are going to take a counter. So counter is nothing but integer value, right? So we need to initialize with either with 0 or 1. From somewhere we are going to start that. So we will initialize our constant state. Export const initial state is equal to, let's say my counter is going to initialize from 0. Instead of 0, let's make it 1. Now here we are going to create our reducer. Const counter reducer. So in your state, you are going to store multiple data. For each data, whatever the data you are going to store in your state, for each that data, you are going to create a reducer. Currently, I'm creating a counter, so I will have counter reducer. Let's say in my store, I'm going to store logged in username. So I will have a logged in username reducer also to deal with that particular state. Okay. So here counter reducer is equal to create reducer. Now see what it needs, initial state. So we created initial state, that will go over here. First parameter. Then we need to use on method. And over here on, first we need to specify the action. See what it need? Action. What action? So we have created our action, that is increment and decrement. So let's get that increment. See, it is specifying from counter action. Once I select it, import will be automatically added. So in action is increment, what you need to do? So round bracket state, you are getting the whole state, current state, arrow operator, state plus 1. This is your logic for increment. Again on second action, decrement. Why it is not suggesting? Yeah. Okay. Let's import comma state -1. Fine. So we said like we are going to create a counter example. So in counter, we have created two state, increment and the decrement. Now in reducer, we have provided the logic for it also. Like if it is increment, what we are going to do? We are going to increment the existing state. If it is decrement, we are going to decrement the state. Fine. So we have created action and the reducer. Two things are done. After that, you have to register your store in your app module. So you have to go to your app module. Here, we are going to have only one state for now. So that state name will be count. This is going to be your state name. What is your state name? Then after that, you need to provide your reducer. So counter reducer. Fine. This is what the next step, third step. See, or almost let's say we will say 5 to 6 steps are there. Just for the basic to get your understanding clear about the NgRx, like what things you need to do. Action, reducer, and you register your store into your app module. Fine. Then you have to create an interface, like what type of data you are going to have in your store. So store.ts, a simple TS file I'm creating. Now inside the store, we have to specify an interface, export interface. This we are going to use in our app component. App state. Currently, we are just going to have only one state, that is count. Data type will be number. Fine. So we have created our interface. So see, action, reducer, then register our store into app module, then we created an interface. This is optional, but instead of going with any, we should create it. Now, in our app component. So now in our app component, we need to inject our store. So how do we inject our store? So inside constructor, private, I have removed that old code for that RxJS what we did. I have removed that. This is a fresh component. Okay. Private store, data type store. Now store, we have to get it from NgRx Store. Now inside that, we have to specify the data type. What type of data I'm going to have in the store? I have created interface. So that interface I need to provide over here. So app state, my interface name. Instead of app state, now let's add I. So we can identify like this is an interface. I. We need the import of it. Let's import it quickly. Fine. So we injected our store into our app component. Now we have increment and decrement method. First, this observable is there. First, we will read the counter data. So we have created an observable. Data type is integer. So this dot counter is equal to this dot store dot pipe method we have to use. And inside that, to read the data from the store, we have to make use of the select method. So select what we are going to read. It's not suggesting, but count only. Our store name. What's the store name we have? Count only, na? See over here. In currently, we just have one data, one state, that is count. So that we are reading over here. So select and whatever the your store name, whatever the state name you are going to read, that's you need to specify. And this you are directly subscribing over here like this. Now, in case of increment, we need to increment this particular count variable from our store. So this dot store, we use dispatch method. So you remember we said we are going to do two operations, increment and the decrement. So in our action, we have created increment and decrement. So this is nothing but we are going to trigger from our dispatch method. So increment, see, it will add the input. Okay. So from increment, we are going to invoke it. Okay. And on decrement, we are going to invoke our decrement action. So this dot store dot dispatch method, what we have to dispatch? Decrement action. So by doing this, actually we are executing reducer, but with the help of the action. It will go over here based on the action we are executing, and it will execute this line of code. Okay. Now let's save all and let's check it. Let me just save all the file properly. Now if I increment, see, I'm able to increment. Now in our project, we have created two components, admin and the user. Now whatever the count we have in our store, that I need to pass it over here. So what I can do, I can directly, let me just remove everything. Now in my admin component, again, I will create a count variable, observable, number type of data. Then let's create constructor. Again, we need to inject our store. So private store store app, sorry, I app state, the interface. Fine. Now over here, this dot count is equal to this dot store dot pipe select method from NgRx, and what we need to read? Count. Now this count I can directly listen into my HTML by using a async pipe. My async is not coming. Okay. Now if I save, see over here also currently state value is 1. If I increment, see in admin component also I'm able to read the updated stored data. Same like that in user also. Let's quickly copy paste. Copy user. So remember, like same thing we have done with the by using the subject also. Let me add the import store and select method from NgRx and the HTML code. This code will go over here. Let's save. See again, whenever your application will read, or your state will by default to go 1 because that's the initial state we have. Increment. See here also I'm able to receive the store data here also. Means in our application, we have a store there. We are storing some data and that data get instantly shared across all the components. So you have a common data where you can store the data, right? You have something stored inside that you are going to store multiple data. Okay. So this is the basic implementation of store. So this was actually a live session. The till now, like RxJS part, you will see like it was a live session. But after that, my Wi-Fi got disconnected. Then my recording stopped. Then again, we continued. But that time, no one reminded me. So recording was not there. So again, I had to record this. So that's why you see, once we completed everything in the app component, that code got removed. So I need to again record this. Fine. So if you didn't join the live session, this was what we discussed. Again, so much discussion was there. Shashikant joined from Let's Program. He also shared so many ideas behind what he is currently working. So many things we discussed. So in coming week, he and I will be taking one more session where we will actually integrate API call integration also. Like how do we store the data when we get data from the API and that we need to store. So there we will be able to see the selectors, effects, fine. But the basic is this. How do we create a store? Action, reducer, register your store into your app module. And how do we deal with the, or how do we modify our state with the help of our action, whatever we created. Fine. So I hope this was helpful for you. Do like, subscribe, and comment. In your in video, you will be finding a description in the video description. You will be finding a WhatsApp link also where you can join and directly connect with me also. Fine. That's it. Thank you.